You know that feeling, right? That pit in your stomach when you or your client realizes the deadline to elect S-corporation status just flew by. It happens more than you think. But here's the good news. Don't panic. The IRS actually has a very specific solution for this exact problem, and today we're going to walk through every single piece of it. Let's dive in.
So, you missed the deadline. What happens right now? Well, by default, your business is probably getting taxed as a C corporation. And that simple oversight? It can have some pretty huge financial consequences. But the good news is there is a clear, well-defined path to get this fixed.
And to really get why this matters so much, let's just quickly look at the stakes. With a C-Corp, you're looking at what's called double taxation. The corporation pays tax, and then the shareholders get taxed again when they get dividends. It's a double whammy. The entire reason you want to be an S-Corp is to avoid that, right? To have all the profits and losses pass through directly to the shareholders. That's why fixing a missed deadline isn't just about paperwork. It's an absolutely critical financial move.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we'll talk about the deadline that causes all the trouble. Then we'll get into the IRS's official Lifeline, that's Revenue Procedure 2013-30. After that, we'll dig into who's eligible, how to actually file late, the common traps to avoid, and then we'll wrap it all up with the final answer.
All right, let's start with the rule that creates this whole problem in the first place, the S-Corp election deadline. It's not a suggestion. It's a hard and fast rule, and it's often called a trap for the unwary because, you guessed it, so many new businesses stumble right into it.
So the rule comes straight from the Internal Revenue Code, specifically Section 1362B, and it is absolutely strict. For most businesses on a calendar year, that deadline is March 15th. File on the 15th, you're golden. But file on March 16th, just one day late, technically your S-election is now only good for the next tax year, and that one-day difference can mean a whole year of being a C-Corp when you never intended to be.
Thankfully, the IRS realized how often this mistake was happening, and they created a really powerful solution. It's called Revenue Procedure 2013-30, and for what we're talking about today, this document is basically the holy grail. It's the most important thing you need to know.
You know, to really appreciate how great this solution is, you got to look at how things used to be. Before 2013, getting this fixed was a total mess. You might have had to get what's called a private letter ruling, which was super expensive and time-consuming. Or you'd have to navigate this confusing patchwork of different rules. What Rev Proc 2013-30 did was basically sweep all that away and create a single, simplified method. It became the one-stop shop for fixing this problem.
So, how do you actually use this Lifeline? Well, it's not a free pass. You have to pass what I like to call a gauntlet of really strict IRS requirements. And they're designed to make sure this relief is only for people who made a genuine, honest mistake, not for people trying to retroactively change their tax strategy.
There are 4 main conditions, 4 hoops you have to jump through to use this simplified procedure. And you have to meet every single one. If you fail any of them, you're probably back to looking at that expensive private letter ruling process we just talked about.
First up is what's called the sole defect requirement. And this one is absolutely critical. It means your business had to be a perfect S-Corp candidate from day one. You know, no more than 100 shareholders, only the right kind of shareholders, only one class of stock, all that stuff. The only thing that went wrong was that you filed Form 2553 late. That's it.
Second, and you really cannot mess this one up, is the consistency principle. This means both the corporation and all of its shareholders had to have acted like the S-election was already in place. The corporation should have filed its tax return on Form 1120-S, and every single shareholder must have reported their K-1 income on their personal 1040s. If anyone filed something inconsistent, like a C-Corp Form 1120, that could kill your chances.
Third, you have to provide a reasonable cause for why you filed late. Now, the IRS is usually pretty reasonable here. A valid reason might be that you relied on a tax professional who dropped the ball, or maybe there was just a genuine misunderstanding of the law. But here's what's not a reasonable cause: hindsight. You can't get to the end of the year, see that being an S-Corp would have saved you a ton of money, and then say you forgot to file. The intent had to be there from the very beginning.
And fourth, there's a clock ticking. Generally speaking, you have to request this relief within 3 years and 75 days of the date the election was supposed to be effective. So, for an election that should have started on January 1st, 2021, your deadline for relief would be March 15th, 2024. It lines up pretty nicely with the general statute of limitations.
But what if you find a mistake from like a decade ago? Is it too late? Well, not necessarily. There's this powerful but very narrow exception called the unlimited lookback. You can use it if, and only if, the late filing is the single issue, everyone has been filing their taxes consistently as an S-Corp for years, it's been at least 6 months since that first 1120S was filed, and the IRS has never said a word about it. It's a great way the IRS handles these sleeping S elections, where everything was done right except for that one missing form at the beginning.
Okay, let's say you've checked all the boxes. You're eligible. Now for the fun part, actually filing the paperwork. This is the procedural playbook, and you've got to follow it to the letter.
The process itself isn't crazy complicated, but like I said, precision is key. Let's break down these 5 steps. You're going to complete a normal Form 2553. You're going to add a really important note at the top. You're going to attach your reasonable cost statement, get every single signature you need, and then file it at the right place.
Okay, I cannot stress this enough. You see this phrase? You absolutely must write filed pursuant to Rev Proc 2013-30 right at the top of your Form 2553. This is not a suggestion. It's the big flashing sign that tells the IRS exactly what you're trying to do and which rulebook you're following. Forgetting to write this can get your whole request thrown out.
Now let's talk about the little things that can derail this whole process. These are the common filing pitfalls, the fine print you absolutely cannot afford to miss, because a tiny mistake here can invalidate your entire request.
And that brings us to maybe the biggest landmine in this entire process, getting the right signatures. You might think, oh, just the current owners need to sign, right? Wrong. The rules for who needs to consent are surprisingly tricky and can go back in time.
And here are the 2 big ones. First, the former shareholder problem. This is a huge gotcha. Anyone who owns stock between the date your S-election was supposed to start and the day you file for relief has to sign. So if someone was a shareholder for a month and left the company a year ago, yep, you got to track them down. Second is the community property problem. In certain states, a shareholder's spouse also has to sign the consent form, even if their name isn't on the stock certificate.
And just as a side note, it's worth knowing there's another rule, Revenue Procedure 2004-35, that specifically helps if a timely filed form was invalid just because a spouse in a community property state didn't sign. But look, when you're filing late under our main rule, 2013-30, the easiest thing to do is just get that spousal signature from the get-go.
Whew. Okay, we have covered a lot of very technical ground. Let's pull it all together now with the key takeaways and get to the final answer to our big question from the beginning.
Let's put the whole regulatory framework right here in one place. You've got IRC Section 1362B. That's the rule that sets the strict initial deadline. You've got Revenue Procedure 2013-30, which gives you the path for relief, usually within that 3-year and 75-day window. And you've got Form 2553, where you have to include that critical annotation at the top. This is the entire playbook in a nutshell.
So let's go all the way back to the question that started this whole thing. Can you fix a missed S-Corp deadline for a prior tax year? The definitive answer is yes, absolutely. Revenue Procedure 2013-30 gives you a clear, solid, and effective way to do it. But the real question you have to ask yourself, or your client, is this. Does the entire history of the company, from every single tax return that's been filed to the relationships with old shareholders, does it all support the claim that this was just a simple, inadvertent error? Because at the end of the day, that's the standard you have to meet.